Hey guys, Josh here. We're going to do the full analysis of the ESL Pro League Season 16 conference, okay? So it's basically like the pre-qualification for ESL Pro League. So basically, 16 teams, about 8 of these teams will make it to the ESL Pro League. The rest of these teams will not make it to the ESL Pro League. Did I say, did I say, did I say 8 teams? I believe that is the case. Yes, 18. Oh, no, not 8 teams. Sorry, 6 teams will make it in the end. Okay, 6 teams. Got it wrong. So, out of these 16 teams, only 6 teams will get to the next stage, which is at DreamHack Summer at Jönköping, Sweden, at the Elmia. Now, basically, this is a little bit of a CSGO tournament that you can watch if you're down at DreamHack Summer, which I highly recommend watching because you can get some really, really good games. Now, it starts on Thursday, so June 16th. So, you probably won't see the first 3 rounds, but the later rounds you'll definitely see at the DreamHack Summer stage, and you'll be able to see it as well. Now, it's a double elimination bracket, if you guys aren't aware, so basically it means you get 2 shots at a cherry, so if you lose your first BO3, you got a second BO3, if you lose that, you're out. Now, let's introduce ourselves to the team. So let's introduce to Group 1, as I call it, which is MIBR, Kawana, Tyloo, and Strife. Now, obviously the favourite here is MIBR. I expect MIBR to go 2-0. They've performed well at the major, and they are the odd one out of this bunch, as they shouldn't be here. Basically, they're just going to breeze through. They'll go for a 2-0. Kawana will most likely probably get eliminated. It's a mixture of the alternate attacks roster, and it's got Korolov on Budapest 5, and it's got HS. It's got a variety of players that are coming into it as well. Now, I'm going to say I fully expect them to get eliminated pretty, either from Strife or Tyloo. To be honest, I think Strife or Tyloo are quite strong. I think Kawana's probably the weakest team here since they've lost Panics as well, and that really hasn't helped them out whatsoever. Even if they make it past the first lowers, I reckon the second lower team that they get in the bracket is going to knock them out. Tyloo didn't perform well at the major. They in fact didn't make it to the major. Now, they have boot camped in Europe and have made considerable strides, like absolutely amazing strides in their gameplay. And I feel like they can take it up to Strife. Strife have done the same thing, but instead of going to Europe, they imported Europe talent over getting Tahito and Fates, and they've definitely improved considerably. In fact, they're one of the top teams in NA at the moment that are slowly performing in the ESA Premier region in NA, and have got themselves into a good final spot for next season as well. So Strife have gone from strength to strength over this as well. Even though the harsh criticism that Strife had, everyone's saying that, why are you doing it from Europe? Get it from NA, man. You get some great NA. And everyone's like, well, NA has nobody. You might as well get someone from Europe who knows what they're doing to infuse it into your region. Davenport University, who are doing the exact same thing, did the exact same thing as well, with less criticism, of course, because, Koya's got more, as per se, influence on social media, and the whingers and the criticizers were kept shut, and will have their mouths forever shut, given the fact that Strife have performed considerably well with Fates and here on the roster as well. Now with Tyloo as well, Tyloo only went out at the major due to the fact that Ben 10 hadn't really practiced with Tyloo that much. He only had just got back into the team at the stage. I mean, they lost to an Order who had no preparation. Should be a sign of that as well. That's where Tyloo had struggled, and that's why Tyloo went to boot camp in Europe. Now, Tyloo can only get stronger. Same with Strife. They can only get stronger as well. And this first BO1, BO3 matchup is going to be pain for either one of these teams. Because one of these teams will face MIBR and go down to the lower bracket. And the other team will go to a lower bracket where they'll face Kawana and eliminate them, most likely. And then we'll have to fight against some probably top-seeded teams from the bottom bracket, which could be either Outsiders or Luminar. And that's a very, very vicious fate to go into, if I've got to be completely honest. And then they probably get, they probably can get a Vertex or something like that, potentially in the end there. It really depends how that ends up. It's absolutely kind of crazy as well. Or they could get Heet or Endpoint. So the hardest fight they're going to have is whoever wins this and will lose to go down to the lower bracket will actually have a really difficult time qualifying, considering the quality of teams they've got to go through. And the team that loses here as well is going to have a really tough time, because the team that comes from the bottom bracket will go up to them, which is going to be Luminar, most likely, I'm going to say. And they're going to have a tough time going through them as well. This first group, whoever wins, whoever loses, will have a tough time for Tyloo or Strife. Really tough time. Because they lose, go to lower bracket versus a really hard opponent. Same as well if they go to the bottom bracket. So, very, very, very going to be a very interesting tournament for these two teams. And I expect Strife to potentially qualify, but Tyloo not to. Now, next up, we'll move up to the next one, which is going to be Encore Order, Endpoint, and Heat, group number 2, as I call them. Now, well, Encore, they were pretty bad at the majors. They disappointed the majors. They disappointed at IM Dallas. To be fair, with IM Dallas, you can't really say they disappointed, given to the fact they versed Astralis and FaZe, which is probably going to say the top two teams of that tournament. Sorry, guys. And I'm going to say, if anyone said that Encore should have beaten FaZe or Astralis, I'll tell them they're fucking dreaming, to be honest. They were going to lose regardless. Now, with the major, it was underperformance when they really should have beaten Tyloo, and they didn't. And they should have beaten an order that was underprepared as well, but they didn't. Now, Encore found themselves in org, finally, so they're not called looking for org, but they need to put runs on the board. They have social media notoriety with, Ben and stuff like that, really popular at org, but they really, really need to score runs. They need to beat Order here, and if they can beat either Endpoint and Heat, they've got ESL Pro League status once again. Now, this is going to be the really hard part. If they win and then lose, it gets worse because you're versing either Sprout or Eternal Fire. So here is that if you do win this opening matchup, sorry. So if you do win this and then you lose this, you're in some real big strife because you'll be versing either Sprout or Eternal Fire. Like at one point you'll be versing one of those teams and they'll take you for a ride basically. But most likely I'm going to say you're probably versing either Hummers or FDW, which are easy to take care of. But you can run into Sprout and EF. Now, with Endpoint and Heat should probably win this. Endpoint have had too many roster switches, I'm going to say. Too many roster switches, and I don't think they're going to get through, unfortunately. And that's due to the roster switches. Now, with Order, they lost Renegades. Obviously, the Renegades dumped them. Now, the Order again, Order picked them right back up. Now, they'll definitely be more prepared, given that they have that boot camp this time around. They have an IGL swap, which are now probably more used to at this point. They played so bad. They played badly at the major, played well in the qualification. But the biggest issue was the fact that they had no practice because they had to come back for IM Dallas qualifications, which they failed to qualify for. And yeah, it just wasn't a good situation all around. But I reckon they bounce back. We're going to get through via 2-2-0s or 2-1s. I'm not too sure. Because realistically, they can beat Endpoint and Heat. Because Endpoint and Heat are going to say probably the softest bracket for the softest group here, where all the teams are roughly on each other's status, with Encore probably lacking behind. But is there anyone can beat anyone in this bracket here? And probably the easier bracket, given there's no Sprout, MIBR, Outsiders, or Eternal Fire in this bracket. Which would, I guess, say, would be the favorites here. So it's probably an easy bracket. So if you're going to win two BF3s, you want to do it here. Because if you go to the lower bracket, you'll be facing an absolute cut for environment. Because at least one of Sprout or Eternal Fire is going to be down there. Okay? And they'll probably take either that 5th or 6th spot. You don't want to face them. Now, Endpoint and Heat. Now, Heat, let's talk about Heat. Heat have kept that roster going for about 6 months or so, and they've been looking very, very good. Jocko, amazing. Lucky Body, they're looking back to their old forms once again. And I reckon they should be able to, I reckon they could be the 2-0 here. But it'll be a very, very tough fight because you've got so many teams here that realistically, if you go like, hey, these guys are pretty good too, they could take it as well. Now, I reckon they'll make it. I reckon Heat will probably make it ESL Pro League, and I reckon Order will be the unfortunate players that go down to the lower bracket and have to face either Eternal Fire or Sprout. Sorry guys for the voice, like my voice is cracked from COVID if it's not obvious enough. Next up we go to Group 3, which is Eternal Fire, FDW, Sprout, and Hummer. Yeah, Eternal Fire going through 2-0. Okay. I mean, let's look at that team. They've got Xantares, Xcloud, Edmore, Calyx, and Woxic, okay? All these 5 players are superstars. They absolutely blitzed the major, and they got really, really close, but yet, so far. They'll get through this 2-0. I don't see them dropping a single map in these BO3s. They are too good. They'll absolutely blitz FDW, and they'll probably blitz Sprout. And this is why I say it's scary, because Sprout now dropped to a lower bracket, and they'll be in the side of the Encore Order area, which I'm going to be very, very scared about whether the lower bracket team is. Whether it's either Encore or Order. Because Sprout is not a bad team. Sprout's a pretty decent team. Now Hammer, because I was talking FTW. FTW is basically the team that gets overshadowed a lot by Saw, being a Portuguese team. And I reckon they're not good enough to get. They'll get eliminated LR1. I reckon Hammer would probably beat them. And if they get to lower bracket 2, well, they're going to get eliminated by, even though I said it was a soft bracket, they'll get eliminated by the winner of Group 2's lower bracket, initial lower bracket. Because I don't see them getting past. Like, they're not strong enough to do so. And there's nothing being really too inspiring. Like, Njerks has been the main reason why they would even make it to lower round 2 in the first place. He's the highest rated player by quite a bit, and I just don't see anything really happening for them either. Like, I think they're just going home, be basically 0-2, see you later, basically. Now, Sprout, they've got some great players, Stayer and Lonks, be performing very, very well. They've got Slack still in the roster as well, and they've got Rolls in the roster as well. And yeah, they'll probably be dumped in a lower bracket in round 2. I don't see them getting past Eternal Fire. And basically the second group, as I said before, I just feel sorry for them because they're going to be facing a very, very hot Sprout outfit. And also Sprout have this case of being stuck in Big Shadow. And I gotta say, at the end of the day, you gotta be what's ahead of you. I gotta say, for anyone in that second group, if Order loses or Anchor loses, they could be preparing for Sprout potentially as well in the future in that second match, and then they're going to be versing whoever wins on the other end, which is going to be very, 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 very rough. And I believe they'll be on the fourth side. I think it'll be Order would be on the. Let's just say that Order, whoever loses first round will be on the second, and the other one will be on the third side. And they could actually reverse each other again if they get knocked to the lower bracket. You never know. But at the end of the day, you got to beat what's ahead of you. You can't be relying on results to go your way. So I think every single team that's going to be in the lower bracket, or most likely be dumped to the lower bracket, needs to be able to beat Sprout. Or they're going home. Hammer, basically, it seems like a sum of all parts from the South American region with a lot of players like CQ, SS, Showtime, and stuff like that would have been part of good teams before but been replaced. Kind of like Team Finest. They haven't really shown too much to impress me at the moment, okay? And given their group... Oh, God. Oh, God. They'll be lower bracket round 1. They'll beat FTW, but they'll get eliminated lower round 2. Like these two teams, FTW and Hammer, are just going to get absolutely tortured. It's not even funny. It's not even funny. Now, to the last group. To our favorite group. Vertex, Falcons, Outsiders, Illumina. I'm going to say here, the ESL should probably switch Falcons with Illumina, and a probably a bit more fairer for Illumina and Outsiders, okay? This match is like, this match should be this match, okay? Vertex won't like that, but, it really should be, because Illumina will be unfairly put down to lower round 1 pretty early on by Outsiders, and Illumina will make a pretty good lower bracket run. Because whoever loses out of here is basically eliminated. I'm going to say that right now. Whoever loses in this BO3 between Vertex and Falcons will most likely be eliminated because no one's beating Illumina out of these two teams. Now, Vertex are the biggest underdogs ever. Like, literally ever. They are huge underdogs. Roflko put a V in his head, which is quite funny. You guys can see it on Twitter. Probably put a link in the video below. Vertex have a pretty good opponent, given the fact that that they are the lower ranked team. Being the Falcons, like if they got an opponent like Falcons instead of Outsiders MIBR, I'll be happy as hell. So I think they're happy as Larry that they got an easier team, because I was expecting to get Outsiders MIBR, to be honest. However, I'm going to say right now, even if Vertex do beat Falcons, yeah, they're going to get absolutely dumped on by Outsiders. Like, absolutely dunked on. I don't see them getting past it at all. However, the worst part is if they win this and then lose this, they get dumped entirely with Stripe, MIBR, and Kowana, okay? And the winner of Stripe entirely may also knock them out as well. So they get dumped at the group 1 if they lose this round 2. But if they lose round 1, they versus Illumina. So either way, they're dumped into some very, very tough matches very early on. And if they really want to make it to ESL Pro League, you got to beat them. And I reckon we get knocked out either lower bracket 1 by Illumina or lower bracket 2 by Strife. That's my opinion. Falcons, second best French team. Got Kyo's got Baka. Got Hadji. Hadji's probably the most player that you want to look out for. Not gonna lie, Hadji's the scariest player in that team. They got Kyojin in there as well. Kyojin not really good enough for tier 1, but good enough for tier 2. As I said before, the loser between these two teams is going to get eliminated 100% by Luminar. And whoever wins this will be dunked down to the strife bracket. So basically, these two teams probably will know where they're going very, very quickly. Now let's take just, I expect Falcons to win, but they'll be dunked down to the lower bracket pretty quickly, and I don't expect them to get any further. I expect the winner of these two teams will probably be eliminated in lower round 1 and lower round 2 respectively. And last one, Outsiders v Luminar. Even losing Yakinda, this team is still very strong, and they'll probably go 2-0. And if they don't go 2-0, if they don't make ESL Pro League, big step back, and I'm going to say, oh boy, it might... I don't say this very, very calmly, but it might be time to blow up the team or do some changes or some boot camps, because, yeah, this team should be making it through 2-0, regardless. Don't see any issues, should be quick work, 2-0, easy peasy. Luminar, Morals, Minio, and PH are all in a roster, finally. And there's two up-and-coming Polish players that you guys are going to love, like Masked. Not Masked, sorry, his other compatriot, but they've been playing quite well together, some really solid CS. And they get rewarded with Outsiders, okay? Carlos could probably write a tweet about this, because G2 had the same situation about versing FaZe first up in the major. So yeah, G2 win 3-0 just to go against FaZe. Well, Luminar win the Polish Championship just to go against Outsiders. And Outsiders will smash them 2-0. And I reckon the Luminar will make it to the lower bracket finals, but will get eliminated But they'll get very, very close. And yeah, this is the funny part with Luminar. Their hardest opponent, if they want to make ESL Pro League, will ironically enough be Outsiders. Even via the lower bracket, even via the upper bracket, which is actually quite crazy. They're playing the hardest game first. If you think about it, they're playing the hardest game first. Because they're playing against the highest opponent. And if they get knocked down to the lower bracket there, they'll verse no one harder than Outsiders. If they get knocked down to the lower bracket in the second round, they'll verse no one harder than Outsiders. If they win 2-0, then all the teams will be easier than the Outsiders. And that's the crazy part for, Luminar, is that they face the harder teams first. Usually it's towards the end when you verse the harder teams, not at the start. But anyways, guys, that's enough of my analysis. I know I've had my voice give out multiple times, I've coughed multiple times, but it's because I have COVID. But I hope you enjoyed the analysis. Have a great day, guys.